Hi, this is Faxi Nadu, and welcome back to the Modular crash course. And what we'll be doing in this segment is we've talked a lot about subtractive synthesis and some about FM and about various things that you can do. But I want to talk right here about using a little bit of a different approach with additive synthesis combined with FM, granular, and subtractive. So this is going to be in some ways like our master project. We're going to be taking together a lot of what we've learned and getting more advanced with the ideas. I want to give a huge shout out to Roland Kuit, who helped me out in understanding some concepts in FM and additive and how to make additive interesting. Roland is a really veteran synthesist, has been working for many, many years with modulars and with synthesis in general. And he actually teaches synthesis at the highest level, at university level, and has written many books on modulars and on synthesis. So if you want to, after you finish this course, get even deeper and learn additional things and get really even more advanced into synthesis, then I really recommend just check out Roland Kuit, Roland and then Kuit online, and you'll find everything you need in this guy. So many thanks, Roland. And let's get down to what we want to do here today. So basically, additive synthesis, if you look at it over here, what it does is it takes a sine oscillator, divides it into 16 harmonic partials, as you see here, and then they are added up and form the basic harmonic content, the sound generator of whatever you want to do. So basically what it means is that it divides into partials. It depends on the module that you're using. We'll be using one that divides the sine into 16 harmonic partials. And if the one that is most on the left will be the lowest partial in terms of frequency content, and then the one on the right will be the highest frequency content partial, and everything in the middle will be divided evenly into 16 such partials. And then each one has a separate output, and this is what is interesting and what we're using right here. The fact that it outputs them differently, and you can manipulate each partial separately. So many times, if you have messed around in the past with additive synthesis, some modulars and some synths, or you will have, well, in synths you will have something going on similar to here, but if you just have a modular and you've opened up an additive module, then you'll see it has these outputs on it, and if you connect them and you mix these outputs, each one can have a separate volume. And that is basically what most people do, and you end up with a really kind of nice bell sound, right, that you can control, like a sine wave where you control the volumes of harmonics that it creates out of that sine waves. But bottom line is, other than just that sort of various bells, doesn't get much more interesting than that. And when I was going to show additive synthesis in this video, I was starting to think, how does it get more interesting? And so some ideas I had on my own, and then I talked with Roland, and he kind of opened my mind to more that you can do here. So what do we have going on? This is the patch that I've pre-built to show you additive synthesis with FM and Granular. And it can do many things, many tones, and blah, 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 blah. But let's build the same thing by ourselves, and that way we will step by step kind of understand what is going on and what we want to do. So I have this empty patch opened up, and all we have here is just the usual things that we know we must use, the poly out, and then our output, an empty multi-effect slot with nothing on it. So the first thing we need to do is set up our generator over here. So we're going to take out a Flexor NBL Elias saw gate. Now you notice that this OSC is a saw OSC. It is not a sine OSC. But the reason we use this OSC is because it has two things. We can build these things. We can do it with other OSCs, but this is just, it's really good for us. It has a dedicated gate input, so it can be gated, and it has a dedicated FM input with bipolar negative and positive amount. So that is great for what we want to do as well. And we do want a sine. We do not want a saw to be bottom line what we're messing around with. So we have the shaper. You already know this from some other videos, harmonic shaper and osc shaper. And we want the, where is that? Saw to try syn. I'm going to connect the oscillator to that. And this is just a model that takes a saw oscillator and changes it harmonically into either a sine or a triangle. It actually does sound, the end result does sound cool with a triangle as well, but let's use a sine. Start with a sine at least. And then we want actually to set up our additive chain. So we're going to take out the proper shaper, which is here, the Chebby. Now you notice there is a Chebby 4, an 8, and a 16. You can use any one. We're going to use the 16, but just one thing to notice is that at least this type of stuff, this additive type of stuff takes up a lot of processing powers on any system. So on the Sonic Core modular, as you can see here, the 4 allows for up to 16 polyphony, and the 16 allows only up to 4 polyphony. So if you want to get really deep polyphonic stuff, then you might consider what you want to do. You might take the 4 or the 8, but we're going to take the 16 just to get the most interesting sort of, the most partials actually, and we're going to sacrifice polyphony for it. So we're going to have a maximum of 4 polyphony. And let's delete the Chebby 4 and use the 16. So what it does, we said it splits the incoming sine. So we're going to have a sine going here. And then we're going to get 16 harmonics of the base frequency that we feed this sine osc. So this is set up like this. Now we have some choices. Okay, we have 16 partials coming out of this module. What do we want to do with them? You can do anything you want with them. You can actually just decide that you don't care about any of this. You want the 5th partial and that's it, and connect this to your output, to your VCA or whatever. You can mix them straight up. You can just take out a mixer, and we're going to actually use the mixer. So let's already take it out. Mix 16. You can just straight up mix them, and then you'll have the ability to control the volume of each partial. But then it's just like we mentioned before, it's not interesting, right? There's no movement in the partials. So that's another option. And yeah, you can sequence them. Actually, you can arpege these with a granular module, and we're going to show some of that a little bit later. So you have a ton of things that you can do, and you can use this for straight up additive like we'll show, or you can use it in other creative ways. So if we look back into our patch, what you notice straight away is all these VCAs over here. So the reason we have all of these is that we want to have movement in our partials in the time domain, but we want it to be a little bit different for each partial. Now, if I've just spoken Chinese to you, what I'm basically trying to say is that, again, we have these 16 partials. If we connect them right now to the mixer, they will be static. Okay, you'll press on your ADSR, your plus play on your keyboard. Your ADSR will play the patch the way it is set up, and all these partials will be following that exact same ADSR. So you'll have just one constant tone that is built out of 16 tones. And the way to make it more interesting is that if each of these tones would kind of move a little bit differently in the time domain. So bottom line, I tried various things to kind of do this, right? I mean, we know we need an ADSR for our patch because we want we want to obviously control it like any other synth. So I had at first, when I was experimenting, I opened like 16 ADSRs and gave each partial its completely own envelope. But then I kind of messed around with the envelopes and I tried to play it. But what comes out is that they sound like 16 different synths. They don't sound like one sound. Even if you make the envelopes pretty much similar, there's still too much of a difference between them. It's just way too much, and it just doesn't sound good. it sounds like you have 16 separate sounds, like 16 channels going with different envelopes. So we want them to have a really, really similar envelope, but just a tiny, tiny bit different. So they will kind of interact and move in and out of prominence in the time domain. And this will simulate a really lively waveform. So this is what we want. So the way, the solution, and of course you can come up with other solutions. This is just, I presented the problem, and now one solution or an option for this. So my solution here was to use the same ADSR for, sorry, it's not this one, this one. The same ADSR for, oops, I'm sorry. I have Facebook open on purpose. I want to show you something on Facebook, but hold on. So I want to use the same ADSR for every single one of these partials. But I want to give them a separate VCA, and each VCA slope will be a bit different. So what it means is that the curve of each stage of the envelope will be a tiny bit different for each one of these partials. And this gives us exactly the kind of variation that we want, which is not too much and not too little, and with a relation to the other partials, not something that is out of the blue. We don't want one partial doing this and one partial, doing something like this. We want them both doing this with a little bit of a difference. Now, I mentioned before I made that other patch, this one, and I kind of uploaded it to Facebook to show my friends and some people, and to give thanks to Roland for helping me. And we had some questions like here. Wim was asking, and this is a really good question, Additive should be able to do everything in theory, no? And then Roland gave the answer that yes, but you would need 400 oscillators. And I gave the answer that the static waveforms would be boring. So yeah, if you had 400 oscillators, it might, even if they were static, it might already kind of be interesting. But even then, you would need movement. So whatever movement that you can get going, this is what is going to make additive synthesis interesting. So this is the point, and this is what we're trying to do with everything here. So let's get back to our patching. Where is our patch? Okay, so we want to do what I mentioned here with the exponential VCAs. So let's take out that module. And I just want to show you that you can also do it with a slope mod VCA. So in this one, in the one that we are going to use, then you can set each slope differently for each of the partials. But if you would use this one, you can also modulate that slope, so it can be moving around with each note. You can obviously do this as well. It adds another dimension, but for the example, it's enough if we use this one. Just showing you some more options that you have. So we're going to need 16 of these. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Damn. And we want the ADSR to modulate all of them, right? So it's going to go into the modulation input of each one of these VCAs. Now I can add them like this, like I've shown on all of my patches, and this would be the clearest way to know what everything is connected to. But scope, just an option here, it allows if I press this input and I press control and I press another input, then it daisy chains the inputs. So it will know to take the output from this ADSR into here, and then continue these connections. So yeah, I usually connect it directly to the module that is modulating, but in this case, it would be just too damn annoying. And really, all we want is such a straightforward thing. So let's just daisy chain it like this. So now the ADSR is going into every single one of these VCAs. And now we have something annoying that we cannot daisy chain, and that is connecting each one of the partials to one of these VCAs. So basically, all that we've just discussed is now being implemented and connected. And once we have all of these, then we can have that little we will implement that circuit. So there we go. 3 more, 14, 15, and sweet 16. Yay. So we have all this going on, and I'm already gonna connect them also to the mixer. So we're going to have the option of having them respond a little bit differently to the envelope, but also we are keeping the option of having different volumes for each partial, as well as actually turning down completely some of the partials. So that is, other than just, playing with the volumes, you don't even have to use all of them. And this gives a really great kind of thing here because it allows you to make kind of sort of inharmonic sort of series by using, one and then delete, and using different kind of combinations of them and different volumes. So yeah, I just draw it just for the fun. Let's connect them all, and this is going to take a second as well. So there we go. And we have no choice here. This is so annoying. I wish one of my cats, I always say that if my cat knew to do only one thing, then I would have one cat that knows how to sample, one cat that makes modular connections. And yeah, it'll be a sweatshop of modular cats. Okay, so here we go. So we have all of it pretty much connected, and let's see how we're going to continue. So the additive chain, we're set up with it. And if we connect it right now, it'll work, and it'll make kind of nice bells and a little bit beyond it because we have all this stuff going on with the slopes of the VCAs. And obviously you want to, once you hear the sounds and you're trying to program a sound, you'll be fiddling around here and you'll be fiddling around here and trying to get those interesting tones to come out. So this still, to me, is not interesting enough, even like this. It's still not that great. It can do some things, but we have the option of implementing more things that will make it even more interesting. And one of the things that works really great with sine waves in general is, as some of you already know, is FM synthesis, and responds really nicely to sines. So why not implement that? Now, you can just take simply an oscillator and stick it into the FM input, but we're going to implement this little FM circuit. And this is what Roland Kuid actually showed me. So we're going to take what he showed me and we're going to copy it into that other patch. So what we'll be using as our FM source is a modulation oscillator, and there it is. Modulation synthesis OSC, and what it means is it's just an oscillator with multiple inputs for FM that can understand audio rates. So it's just a useful one. You don't have to use this one by any means. And another thing that is different here is normally, okay, right now let's connect the frequency to our OSC. So you have the frequency coming into the patch via MIDI, and normally on most synths you will have the frequency going into the main oscillator, and whatever you use for FM will also get frequency via MIDI. We're going to do something else to give us the key here is going to be the control over the FM, to have it control really a range and exactly what the FM is doing. So instead of using that actual frequency, we're going to use a constant frequency module, and this is part of the key here. And here you just input any frequency that you want. You can input it like with the keyboard as well and get really crazy frequencies. But we're going to use something that is really low, but already in the audio rate. So we're not going to use like 2000, but we're not going to use 3 hertz either. We're going to use like 50 or 70 or 80 or 90. We're going to use something in this range. Obviously, you can do whatever you want. I'm just showing you. And then we want to have we want to kind of modulate this frequency. I'm sorry. Okay. We want to have this frequency modulate an oscillator, and this oscillator modulating the synthesis generator. So what we need to do is get 3 modules out, actually, or 4 modules out. Let's take out the sine OSC. And this one is what is going to be getting frequency from our constant frequency over here. And then we have a triangle LFO, a VCA, and a mixer. So let's take out the, well, I see I used an exponential VCA here. Yeah, okay, because of the triangle LFO. Well, you can use a linear VCA as well. Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's do it the same way. So triangle LFO, and we needed the mix too, and this is just for later on, but we're gonna have it here already anyway. So, and there we go. So the sine OSC is what's going to be modulating this modulation generator. So it's going to go first into a VCA. The VCA is going to be modulated by a slow triangle LFO. You can use a sine, you can use whatever you want. This is just this example that Roland has given us here. And let's see, where's the VCA? Okay, it's going to the mixer first. And then to the VCA. Okay, so let's do that. Well, we don't need the mixer. This is why I got a little bit confused. We're not going to use the mixer right now, only in the end. Let's go like this. So now you have a modulation OSC set up. It doesn't actually need its own frequency because it's getting frequency and content from all of this going on right here. And what actually happens is this sine is getting frequency from this, and it is passing along the frequency in volume based on the movement of this triangle LFO, because it is getting a VCA as well. So, and then you can output this directly into this FM input, but we want a little bit more control. If you notice here, we have used a volume attenuator after the LFO, and we've used an envelope for this whole LFO thing.